Hi guys, so you had your sort of makey video, your bonus Frostgrave video on Wednesday night. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to do a bit of a talky video and try and go through the things that you need to start playing Frostgrave. So I'm going to keep it nice and basic, but there's a lot to get through, so we best get started. Right then, so I'll start off at the top. These are the things that the rulebook lists, though of course you're going to need a rulebook. So number one, rulebook. Next up, you're going to need dice, preferably one per person, D20s, different sizes. You don't need this size, you can just use a normal size. You only need one size, by the way, that wasn't telling you multiple sizes. Okay, you're going to need a tape measure or some form of measuring implement for moving stuff around, measuring stuff, that sort of doohickey. You need a table. So the standard size is a 3x3. So this map behind us here is a 3x3. You can use 2x2 if you want faster games, that sort of thing. Okay, and then finally, a wizard sheet. The wizard sheet can be downloaded from I think it's the Osprey website. I'll put a link down in the description. I'm going to be pointing up in this corner a lot because a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about I've actually made videos of in the past. So you have to excuse all this. Anyway, so that's the basics of what you need. So let's move on to what models you need. So I'm going to start off with the warband. So you're going to need a wizard, excuse me, an apprentice, and then a bunch of soldiers. Right. So the wizards and apprentices are available from the North Star website. That's the official ones. Or you can go on to the Reaper Bones website or lots of different websites and basically just pick up some wizards whichever ones you prefer, whatever price you can get them at. Or if you've got some old miniatures lying around from an old war game or even miniatures game you were playing. I've got a load of miniatures in a box back there, which has got a load of the old D&D stuff in it. Here's an example little fella. This was from the old D&D miniatures game. I used it for, well, D&D, but it works perfectly in this as well. And because of the wide variety of all the sort of miniatures that they made for that game, and the fact that it was done a while ago, you can pick them up pretty cheap, and yeah, they're sufficient. They're not going to be as high grade as buying proper monsters and miniatures and things, and they are made of the cheap bendy plastic. But the good thing about that is they're not going to break. It's a good job that one didn't, eh? Right then, so that's basically where you're going to get your models from. So you need 8 soldiers. You want to have a mixture of archers, crossbowmen, swords and shields, swords by himself, two-handed weapons, and if you've got all that sort of thing, you'll be able to build up a fairly varied warband. Right, excuse me if I'm talking fast. I'm going to try and get through this and not make it a million minutes long. For your monsters, again, the same thing. You've got the official kits. You can get the official skeletons, like this fella here. You've got that comes with ghouls and things. You've got D&D miniatures. Again, you've got all the Reaper Bones stuff. So there's lots of options out there, or you can use some old stuff you've got lying around, to be honest, if you've been playing war games or role-playing games for a long time. Right then, so that's basically all the models that you're going to need. For the monsters, a wide array of miniatures is probably best. There's a table in the rule book, which details. We roll on a dice twice, and it comes out with what miniature is going to come on the board as a random encounter. If you don't have the miniature that comes up on the table, just pick the closest one. Basically, I mean, you can play it just having some skeletons and basically just have skeletons come on every time that the rules tell you to put one on. There are some miniatures that are specific to the different expansions that they've released. Usually they've released kits for that as well. So for example, with the Lich Lord, you need some cultists. There's a box of cultists, and the great thing about the cultists is you can use them as both your warband and the enemies that you need to fight on some of those scenarios, and so on and so forth. So those are the models you need. Terrain. So you're going to need ruins. The whole idea of Frostgrave is that you're going into a ruined city. So this is generally my setup here. I've used the Pegasus stuff. Video up there if you want to see how that goes together. You can also get papercraft stuff. So if you want to go the cheap route, you don't have to go on official kits, even though these ones are fairly cheap as far as kits go, you can get some really expensive resin stuff. So you want the multi-level terrain, and you can get the paper stuff. Also, you can go to your garden centre, especially this time of year, which is Christmas, and they've got this stuff. So this here is the sort of Christmas village type stuff, and it's cheap, and this actually has a proper LED in it, but I've cut the wires off because I just didn't want them. Quick dry brush of I think it's white or light grey, and they look a bit frosty. They do the job. Really nice pieces of kit. Right, so that's the sort of basics of what you're going to need. You're going to want to have it fairly sort of, well, busy like that there. You're going to want little space in between all the stuff. So you're going to want a fair bit of it, which is probably why it's best going for paper craft stuff. You know, the stuff you print out and you fold it and glue it, and eventually it looks like a house. You can get some pretty impressive stuff for that as well, and if it's not free, then it's really cheap to buy PDFs of the stuff. So you're going to need some scenario specific stuff. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this stuff. Basically, if you want to just start off, you're going to need treasure tokens, which are a given, and you're also going to want maybe some statues and some columns, because a lot of the scenarios in the base rulebook are based around having things that you go to, like statues or indeed columns. I'm actually going to use the telescopes I've been working on recently. Again, video up there on how those came along. And if you can muster it, a tower. So that's my tower there. You can't really see much of it. Again, video of that being made and how that turned out. Right then, what tokens are you going to need? So you've got your models, you've got your paraphernalia for actually playing the game, you've got your scenery and your table. What else are you going to need? You're going to need tokens. So I've already mentioned the treasure tokens. You can get the official treasure that they sell on the North Star website, or you can make your own. Again, video up there of the stuff that I made. It's going to happen a lot. Right, other tokens that you might need. Now, I was struggling to think of any here, but I'm sure I've missed some. So if you can think of any, if you're familiar with the game, pop them down in the description in the comments. It's been a rough day. This video is all over the place. So yeah, so if you think of any, pop them in the comments. The only thing I could think of was wound tokens. Now, Guerrilla Miniature Games, Ash over there, he's got these little sort of slidey tokens that he puts next to his miniatures, and all it is it just slides around and you get a number on it, and it basically tells you how many wounds are left. That can save time if you don't want to write it all down on the wizard sheet. Right then, so that's the tokens. So at that point you've got everything you need to play. Basically, you've got the models you need, you've got the stuff you'll be up against, you've got your opponent's warband, you've got a table, you've got all the scenery on it, and you've got stuff that you're fighting over. And that is basically it. So, stuff that can help. I wanted to do one last bit and go through stuff that will make your life easier. So, one of the biggest things I've done when I bought this game was got into this game, was sorting out my wizard sheets. So these wizard sheets here, again, video up there, they've got acetate and they're also laminated. And what that means is you can use these like fine liner dry markers to draw on them. So I use this sheet here to draw notes during the game, and then when stuff changes it goes under there, and the idea is you can just wipe it all off. Anyway, I'm not supposed to be going into details. Video up there if you if you want to see more, or indeed down in the description. Right. Also, with these, you might want to set up a whiteboard. I've got a whiteboard here on the wall. Basically what I do is I set up the experience tracker. So you get experience for killing other wizards, apprentices, models, getting treasure, casting spells, all that sort of stuff. And you've also got your captains that might be getting experience as well. You might want a big board where you can just mark it all off as you go through and keep track of it nice and easy. And then we just tot it up at the end of the night. Bish bash bosh. Right then, next thing on my list is card sleeves. So the actual official spell cards are really difficult to get your hands on, but if you go to the same website where you get the wizard sheet, there's also a cheat sheet that you can get that looks well, that's hard to see, but it's got loads of information on how to play the game in a really basic form. So if you're forgetting some rules, just reference it. Again, you can get that from the website, on the Osprey website. And you can also get sheets with the spells on. So what I've done is I've got some card protectors, and then I've cut out the spells into their small squares. They come out sort of lined so you can cut them out. I bung them in here, and then you can also use, again, this to draw on your cast and then how much you've buffed it as you've gone through the campaign as well. So this comes really in handy, especially when playing the game. You've got a quick reference on reading the spell that you're casting. You've got the casting amount rather than having to work it out, because of course that number there isn't going to be right. Bish bash bosh, easy peasy. And I've got them all lined up here, as you can see. This is my side of the table, and I think that was all I wanted to cover. Yeah, sorry if this is a long video. There's a lot to cover, and apologies for the mumbling and the stumbling. There we go, stumbling over my words. Right then, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you got something from this video. I might be doing some more videos in the future around sort of building a warband, and even talking about some of the upgrades and the best choices for the upgrades. I also need to go over the state of my warband as well to show you guys how it looks now, because that stuff can be pretty interesting, I find. Right then, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Keep up with me on these over here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Stay well, guys.